Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today's video is sponsored by Spyder Tool Holster. Now, a while back, I did a video on the Spyder Tool Holster Bit Gripper version 2. Now, what these are 3M backed bit holders that will contour to whatever cordless tool that you want to put them on, and thereby hold in your 1/4-inch bits. In my case, I put them on my Dewalt screwdriver, and they have performed incredibly well. The 3M backing on these is held up outstandingly, and the ability to have extra bit storage on a tool like this is just, it's a great feature to have. I don't have to go searching around for bits. I keep my most used bits on this driver, and it just makes it just so much more convenient. Now, you can put these on other cordless tools as well. I chose to put them on my Dewalt screwdriver. You can put them on stuff like your 1/4-inch impact drivers, or if you want to put them on a drill as well. Now, speaking of this driver, this is one of those tools that I kind of strayed away from the 12-volt series of tools because for whatever reason I thought they just weren't robust enough to be used in commercial application. I couldn't have been further from the truth. Milwaukee has a great selection of 12-volt stuff, as well as Makita, and DeWalt is starting to acquire more and more. Now, I use DeWalt for most of my cordless tools, and so that's why I went with the DeWalt driver. But this is one of those tools that once I bought it and actually used it, it's one of my most used cordless tools, and it's something that I really can't go without anymore. In fact, this is the older version. I have a couple of the newer versions as well. So let's set that to the side, and today we're going to be looking at the tape measure set from Spyder Tool Holster. So what this is going to include is a quick draw belt holster that will allow you to take the same type of 3M backed connector and put it onto a tape measure, thereby making your tape measure so that you don't have to utilize the clip that come with standard tape measures. Now, if you use a tape measure as much as I do, over time, that tape measure clipping onto the hem of your pocket will just completely tear up your pockets. Now, if you find yourself not using a tape measure that often, it's probably not an issue for you, and just setting the clip on once in a while is no big deal. But for those of us who carry a tape measure constantly in our job, you'll no doubt know that at some point, unless you have a guard for it, that you're just going to tear up the hem of your jeans over time. And this is what this type of accessory is meant to eliminate. So with the tool holster, it has that quick release function where once you get it set in there, get this piece set onto your tape measure, just a little flick up here as you're pulling the tape measure out will release it. Now on the back, it has the belt holster, which is made out of steel. Couple of things with this. First of all, it's going to accept a belt up to 2 inches wide, and you might notice on the inside there has a little tab that actually pushes back out against the belt, so it really kind of traps it in there. What happens is this, once you set this on your belt, it doesn't, unlike some belt clips where they just have an open tab here and then it can very easily slide around on your belt. Once you set this one, the pressure that it sets against with that other tab really locks this in to wherever you set it on your belt, so that you don't have this tape measure swinging around the edge of your belt all the time. So that's a great feature that I like that they put in there. Another feature to this is that, say you're getting off for lunch or whatever, you want to take your tool off without having to pull your belt, then it has a little tab, a quick release tab down here at the bottom that you can actually take this off with. Now, with the tabs, what you'll want to do is you're going to get a tape measure. You're going to make sure that you have a very clean surface for this 3M backer to adhere to. If you do that and you clean it really well, these 3M backers, this tape holds incredibly strong. I've used a 3M product for a number of years, and if the surface is very clean and you adhere it correctly, it's almost impossible to get off. So we're going to be trying this on a tape measure, and we're going to find out and see how well it holds together. So the tape measure that I generally will use is either a Stanley Powerlock 25-foot or 30-foot. Now, to add on this piece, we're going to first remove this clip. Then we're going to prep it with the alcohol prep pad, and then we'll see how well this adheres. We'll give it a little while to adhere properly, and then we'll test out and see how well this system works. So first thing first, we got a number 1 Phillips head screw that we have to remove here just to set the clip to the side. And it's got a bit of a raised portion here, which you're going to find in most tape measures, so it'll be interesting to see how well that is going to adhere all the way around that, because that plastic on the bottom is somewhat solid. So I don't know if it's more advantageous to try to remove the sticker and put it on this side, but so that you would have a nice flat surface, but then that wouldn't it wouldn't seat that well. So I'm not sure what the best option for this is. So we're going to try it against this surface, even though that raised edge, I'm afraid, might cause a bit of an issue. So let's get it prepped, and then we'll give it a try. We'll put it on there and see how well it works. So first thing first, we'll get this thing cleaned off. This is a tape I use, so it's not necessarily the cleanest tape in the world. We'll give that a little bit of time to dry off, and then we'll mount this piece on here and see if we can get it to adhere properly. Okay, so now that that has had sufficient time to dry, we'll just peel back the 3M layer here, just the top piece. Set that to the side. We want to set this as straight up and down as possible. We'll mount it to it, and then we'll see if we can't get it to adhere all the way around that mount position for that clip. Hopefully it will adhere correctly. And that 3M is actually some pretty good stuff, so it's actually seating around there pretty well. So we'll just make sure that we have constant pressure, get it seated properly. We'll give it an opportunity to dry, and then we'll check it to see how well it holds up. So I just went around here and basically just gave it pressure and tried to seat it around that lip. Now, had I taken the time to file that little raised portion of that plastic down to get a more flattened surface, I think it would have adhered just slightly better. But this 3M is actually some very, very strong stuff, and even working around those ridges, it has seems to have held on there pretty well. So we'll try it loose first to see how well this thing works. And you can see, because it locks in place, even if you were to get twisted around somewhere, without pulling the safety latch here, you're not going to be able to pull it off. So it slides in there very nicely, locks in place, and then to release it, just pull the little thumb rest and slide it out. So I'm going to let this dry just a little bit more, and then we're going to put it in some real life use and see how well it holds up. Well, after a full day of using this thing, and I probably overdid it, I was really trying to just test out that adhesive to see how well it was going to hold up. And probably over the last 4 hours or so, 5 hours maybe, I have taken it on and off. I had stuff to do, so I was using the tape measure. But probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100, 150 times, I was just playing around with it to see how well the tool holster was going to hold up. Now, if I had one criticism of this, it's that this actually grabs a little tighter than I thought it was going to. Now, you can probably bend this out a little bit to relax it just a little bit, but the benefit to that is that once you get it set on your belt, it stays where you put it. It doesn't shift around on your belt, so that is a good thing. It's just a little bit too tight, but it fits well, and it holds in incredibly securely. Now, if I was going to redo this tape, the one thing that I would do before I set this adhesive on here, set this piece on here, would be I would take a file and file down that plastic, that raised ledge where those clips went, because while the 3M has adhered to it and adhered to it very, very well, and as a matter of fact, you can see that right here where that top of that ledge is, that's where when initially putting it on, I wasn't able to get it seated down correctly enough, and just the pressure is pulling it off that point. But then over the top, it is sealing down quite firmly. So overall, I could have made the adhesion a little bit better, and it would have worked a little bit more efficiently. But I have taken this on and off, like I said, about 100 to 150 times, and it has worked without incident. This is actually a very good lockup on here. Once it seats, it sets, and it does not move. And that is what I expect of this type of accessory tool. So the two things that I've used from Spider tool holster so far, the Bit Gripper version 2 for their cordless tools, and the tape kit, have both been just outstanding products ones that I'm going to recommend. Now, if I'm going to be using this, obviously I've already put it together, so I'm going to be using this for the foreseeable future. And if I run into a situation where I think it's not working correctly, I'll definitely give you guys an update and let you know whether or not or how mine is holding up. Now, I think if I would have ground down that plastic a little bit, got that completely flat or close enough to flat before I set this on here, it would have worked that much better. But it seems to be holding up just great. So this is the Spider tape holster. My name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.